Hey, What's Your Self Talk? Jabari is here from What's Your Self Talk podcast. And listen, I want you to download Anchor right now. Because chances are you're listening to this and you're saying, I got some things I want to share. I have some things that I've wanted to put in the podcast form. Here's the opportunity. Anchor is free. You can do it from your phone and you can be on all the different podcast stations all in one app. Okay. So what I need you to do is stop waiting for the perfect time, analysis paralysis. Do it now. You'll thank me later. What's your self-talk? Hey, what's your self-talk? This is Jabari, your host of the podcast, What's Your Self-Talk? And my goal is to always bring you information and questions that's going to answer that question, what's your self-talk? So today is a very, very big topic that is currently going on in the world. But to be honest, it's something that I've personally have been pushing and fighting through for a while. Now, for some of you who may know me personally, you know that I am a very exciting, loving, cheerful person. And when I look at where we're at today when it comes to Black Lives Matter, I have got to a point where it's like, okay, not only one is important for me to be able to voice my take and things that I face, but it's also important for you to understand where I'm coming from. Now, what I also need you to understand is that if you don't agree kind of with what I'm saying, that's fine. You can at any point decide not to listen. However, I want you to understand is that I believe that that's going to always remain an issue for you as an individual. And so remember, I've come to you as What's Your Self-Talk is to bring you ideas that's going to challenge you, that's going to draw you out to be more of who you are. And this have been a conversation I have had all week where it has actually given me the language to be able to put this into words. Not only want to allow me to understand who I need to be to become better as a father, as a male, and as a black man that is constantly having to get into the world and make the difference that I want to make for my culture, for my family, and just for this world. And so I think the first thing that's important to hear and understand is what happens or what is everyone missing when it comes to not fully understanding empathy. So what I want to do first is go to Google and I want to define the word empathy. Because when we define that, we can understand what I'm about to say next. So empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. So, I am a black male who have experienced numerous of situations and circumstances, whether it was upfront or it was not upfront, where it was related to racism. Now, I have chose many of times to not bring it up. I have chose many of times to not say nothing. Well, because it was something that, for one, I didn't have the words to even know how to explain. For two, I didn't really feel that that person really cared about what I had to say on my viewpoint. And the reason now I come back and talk about it is because I think it's important for my son one day who's going to hear this and understand, like, well, how did you handle this, Dad, and how did you move forward? Because what I want my son to know is that it's important to be able to stand up for the things that has held many of other black men back from succeeding and striving and making a difference, but also how I handled it. And so when you think about empathy, anyone who said they're confused, if you're confused, then I want you to understand you need to go spend time. It's enough movies, it's enough documentaries, it is enough things that has been put out there to give you better understanding and to give you better empathy. Now, what I want you to understand is that now that this has resurfaced, because I say resurfaced because there's been many of different deaths that have happened. There's been many other protests that have happened. There's many of things that have happened over so many years where we've said this is not right. And now we're finally got to a point that I'm grateful for, that others are starting to see and understand what we have seen for so many years. I mean, I've had these conversations with my dad, with my mom, just a lot of my family members of things they experienced when they were older, and they would tell me about them. And it was me having to understand how to take that and still move into the world. Understanding, there is a definition of white privilege. And it's going to be very hard for some of you to even see and understand what that means. I seen it and I never bring it up because I'm like, I'm going to beat the odds anyways. But the reality is that it's there. And I always knew it has been there, and it's something I have to push past. And so empathy is understanding what I'm saying is true. Understanding what I'm saying and putting yourself in my shoes. Because the reality is what's more important is not what's going on right now, within this week, within this month, within 2020, but what's going to happen 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And then I want you to even just look back and what has happened and what has not happened, and to why we're now at this point. And that is, I think, a lot of my biggest frustration that I had to figure out just throughout the week when I'm having a conversation with a lot of people who want to understand, but even more people who don't get what's going on and why people are doing the things that they're doing. Well, a lot of it has come from, if you were someone who was in pain, let's say you lost a loved one. And when you lose a loved one, one of the proper things to do is to grieve. Now, who am I to tell you how to grieve? Everyone has a right to grieve any type of death, any type of suffering, or any type of trauma that they have experienced in their life. We all know that. And so the results of Black lives and Black people today and how they're responding has been a simple reflection of grieving. Now, moving forward, the question is, what are you going to do? And what am I going to do? Because more importantly, what's more important for me is the things that I'm doing. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but I'm going to answer a couple other questions that I think that's helpful to, I believe, you as listeners who want to grow and who wants to learn how to really embrace what's going on in this world. But then also seeing the viewpoint from me being a Black male, and me having to experience and see what is going on. So number one, when I'm thinking about raising my son and the conversations I have to have with him, the reality is that some of the things I'm going to have to tell my son is that There are people out there who do not have your best interests in mind. And you have to understand is that sometimes it's going to have something to do with your color of your skin. Sometimes it may be with your intelligence. It may be anything. But right now, specifically, we're talking about the color of your skin. And what I want you to understand is that it will exist. Now, I'm not someone to tell you to don't love all people and I want you to always treat all people fair and equal. Because it's very important for you to do that, because as my household, we are believers. We believe in God who sent Jesus. Jesus suffered for us, and his suffering was in a direct relation with his Father, for he was being obedient to what his Father asked him to do. Therefore, it led to the ultimate suffering, which was death. And he did that for you, for me, and therefore, that is why we not only love, that's why we forgive, but that's what we ultimately look at. Now, these are conversations I have with my son, who is going to view these experiences a little bit different. He's just one right now, so he can't fully comprehend all that. So it's going to be later down the line. But these are going to be the things that I circle around, and these are going to be the things that are going to help me push into these conversations, how to have it. And maybe as I continue to learn, as I continue to understand, I will find different ways to be able to have that conversation. But one thing what you got to realize is that as I grow and as I continue to be the better father, I realize that this conversation will have to be had. And two, it's been a lot of things that has happened against us as black males and as black people that has held us back from being able to advance in the world. And one thing that Dad has always done is always press against the odds. Now, I can't say that will always be the same for everybody else. Everybody has always fought a battle, but at the same time, it shouldn't have to be that way if we was all treated equally. So what is a few things how I have viewed my life as a business owner and as a student? So I played college football, and growing up as a student, I really just overlooked everything. And that's just me being honest. Me overlooking the any type of racism or anything that had to deal with racism, because not only one that I didn't want to fully understand at that time, but my energy and the amount of effort it takes to focus on that, it takes away from something else. And so now it gets to the point where it's now more on my responsibility to not only dive into the energy, but to explore it so that I can put it in words, so that I can not only help myself, but I can help you. See, when you overlook a situation for so long, you are choosing to be passive. And when you're choosing to be passive, you're saying, well, I think it's best if I don't say anything. When the reality is you need to say something. Something needs to be said. And even if it's, I don't know, but I'm saying something, which is that something I don't know. But I think the problem has remained for so long that I didn't say anything. And that's part of the problem for whoever's maybe listening to this, and you're asking yourself, why haven't I called him? Why haven't I reached out to him or my friends? Or why haven't I seek understanding? And me just being a very Bible-based person, I believe that those hard conversations is what needs to happen for you to get to that point. So what action step do you think will show true progress? And I believe some of the action steps that will show true progress is that I think as America, and specifically when you look at anyone that is cause any destruction against the Black lives, or who have viewed blacks as a threat, or who has viewed black as not equal, even if you never even jumped into this conversation and just said nothing, or you have played in some form of fashion towards that, or you just think black people are just dumb and they can't make it in this world, you think they don't deserve this, like any way, form, or fashion, like you're part of the problem. And the real thing, what has to happen is, I think that we as a black culture have done so much to make it aware, to make it obvious that this is not right. And it's like it gets to the point where it's no longer my job to tell you. It's my job to live who I'm called to be and to stop not saying anything. But it's now even more so your job to not only get with your friend, but call your friends out. If they are not saying anything, saying, why are you saying anything? Why do you believe that is the case? You know, I'm pretty sure you're just like me. I've been on social media and I've just been viewing every which way videos and hearing things on the news. And so it's so interesting just to hear so many different people give their feedback or just hear what they have to say, because it's great right now because it's the hot topic. And I think the real action steps that need to be taken is that this needs to be something that is worked on every single day for the rest of your life. Just like I have to work through this and had to work this, and I will still have to work through it. I hope that it get better. But at this point in my life, I'm 32. And so I had to push past the hurt. I had to push past knowing that they were being racist. I will remember, I want to give a specific example that I had to be able to deal with. And in sales. And I used to sell automobiles. And I remember specifically a situation is that I was selling a car to an older white gentleman. And he told one of my managers, I don't want to buy a car from that black man. And he bluntly said it. And in my mind, I was just like, well, I still got to take care of my family. And so what I had to do, I had to be the bigger man. Now, the good thing about my manager, they was like, well, you're not going to buy a car from here unless you buy it from him, because he's the one who helped you. He's the one who knows how to do everything as far as showing you the features, so forth from there. So I'm very appreciative of them. But I want you to understand, like, me doing nothing wasn't an option because I had a responsibility. And so I did the necessary thing that I needed to do. I sold him the vehicle. He went on his way. He was very appreciative. And maybe he feel different about me. Maybe he don't. I don't know. I don't know that answer, but it's the reality that that's a small glimpse and a small reminder of something that I had to personally experience and be able to push past. And it's just like, how many times have I done that? I can't even try to count on my. It's past as many hands. It's past the amount of hands I have. But I think the reality is that just think about if you had to put yourself in my shoes. Let's go back to the empathy. How would you feel if that was you put in that situation? Knowing someone said that they didn't want to buy something for you just for the color of your skin. I've not done anything to this guy. This guy didn't know me, from 2 days, 3 days ago, from when I first met him. Started looking at this vehicle. And so for him to say that, it was 100% just because I was black. That was it. I could have been I could have been the top mechanic that built that car. And it didn't matter. It was just because of my skin. And so when you hear that story, how does that make you feel? You feel like he was right? You feel like that makes you uncomfortable? However that makes you feel, it's important for you to start understanding, okay, if this doesn't arise some type of anger in me or frustration, maybe I agree with him. I agree with how that guy viewed in some way, form, fashion. And it may be hard for you to sit here and be able to admit, but the reality is you have to realize where you stand. And if you really want to make a difference, and if you really want to draw out the true potential, who I believe you're capable of being. Just like me sitting here and talking to you about this. Okay, it's uncomfortable, but I got to get better at having this conversation. But even too, I know it's people that is counting on me. My people is real simple as my family. And so last question I have, just what would I do personally to be able to help progress the importance of Black Lives Matter? And so I think one of the things I'm going to do, I'm definitely going to continue to be willing to not only talk about this more, but even help the Black community to understand the importance of ownership. One of the things I love the most is running and operating a business, because what allows me to do is let those who think that they can't be in business, that they can't have some sense of ownership in a business, that they can. And not only that they can, but they can also be able to do it in a bigger way than they ever have seen. And me and my wife talk about this so much. And I think it's so important to, as a Black business owner who is have success, but then who can be able to give back, who can be able to do so much more than just get by. Oh man, that changes the perspective of what is possible, not only just in America, but just as a Black man or woman, or even family in this case. And so educating, giving the confidence, not only being an example, but then putting people in the position that I have faithfully put myself in a position of, if most of you know, me and my wife have a real estate investment company, and we are grateful to right now have over 16 different doors that we own that is passive income for us, and looking to continue to grow. But if it's that simple thing of ownership that goes back to what we didn't have the opportunity to have. And I think about my grandpa, who built 3 houses for my mom and my uncle and my aunt, and that now we don't have in our family no more. And a part of me wants to go buy back all 3 of those houses, and I'm gonna get to the point where I will, because I want to put that back into our family, because that was part of our legacy. And it claims so much more, and it gives my son a ceiling. It gives him a floor that is my ceiling. And so I think it's important for how I will continue to progress is being able to find those Black individuals and Black families and Black little boys and girls who want to even learn more how to do that for themselves. It don't have to be real estate, but ownership in general gives you power, gives you confidence, but it gives you so much influence on what is possible. And that is, I think, the number one things that I would do the progress. And I remember just talking to somebody today, and they were asking me, man, I love what y'all doing, man. And, I definitely want to be able to do that. And I'm like, absolutely. I want to be here to help you because I know you can do it because we did. And it's nothing special about us is that we just push through. I push through the noise. I hear it. I see it. I've experienced it, but I push through it as well. And I know you can as well because it's always for a bigger purpose. All right. So today's episode was a little bit different. It was definitely me giving my very first talk as far as publicly on why Black Lives Matter and why specifically you need to understand how you can grow from this. And I'm going to end with this analogy to help you understand why I made this podcast about why Black Lives Matters, but why I want you to take interest in understanding why it matters as well. Because I'm pretty sure somebody will listen to this and skew it towards another direction. So I want you to think about an analogy I heard. Say it was one house that was completely fine, and it was another house that was burning. And you call all the people in the neighborhood to help out. Say, hey, this house is burning, and I need your help to be able to put this fire out. And you have somebody that's come up and say, well, what about my house? Well, your house is not on fire. It doesn't need immediate attention. We need this house over here needs our immediate attention. But all houses matter. Well, I'm not saying that it doesn't, but at this time, we need attention on this house. And they continue to say, well, my house matters too. Never said it didn't. But the immediate thing that needs attention is this one house. The Black culture is people just like you are. And the reality is, if you don't focus on just that individually, you're part of the problem as well. If you divert it and say all people matter, then that is the problem that we have struggled with for so long. It's because it's so easy for everybody to divert it to everything else instead of focusing on what we're saying. We're not saying that nobody else's life does not matter. We're saying that Black Lives Matter because we have been so oppressed and so many things has been put in place against us, is that we need some attention so that we can actually feel that what you're saying is true. All people matter. Because if all people matter, then we are a part of that people. And if you don't focus on the part of people that you are leaving out, then that's a false statement you're making. All people don't matter if you don't take into consideration the Black people. The police brutality, the oppression, and just so many things that are happening has been due to the multiple people who have chose to be silent, not say anything, not understand, not fully comprehend what are the things we have to keep putting up with. And that's why it's your job to reach out to your friends. That is why it's your job to initiate. And it's not even just me or any of your Black friends. You need to reach out to your friends and see how do they feel about this? And what are the things you can do to help support some of these other Black businesses? Maybe it's buy from them. Maybe it's provide your knowledge. Maybe it's to help them in situations that's going to make them better for their family and for their friends. There's so many things you can do, but choosing not to do anything needs not to be an option anymore. So, thank you for listening. And I know I'll come and I'll talk more about this topic. But I think the biggest thing is that I want you to grow and understand how you can be better if you choose to take action. Because at the end of the day, you know the question I'm going to ask you, what's your self-talk? What are you doing right now to be able to pull out the potential inside of you? Black Lives Matter, and it's time to put into action so that we can see that and start moving forward as one. Love you. Thank you for listening. Until next time, what's your self-talk?